Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Well, the confetti has settled, the lights dimmed, and the curtains have closed. And with that, WrestleMania is now officially over. The explosive two-night event took place over the weekend and has garnered some very strong opinions on its overall success. While the greatest spectacle in sports entertainment may be over, the aftermath is sure to be felt in the following weeks to come, and that's where we come in. I am your overlord and moonsault mistress Dawn, joined by my partner in crime and your final boss, the Josh. We have a lot of twists, turns, shocks, and awe's to unpack for night two, so how's about we get into it?
How's about? And unlike other final bosses, I am showing up.
Yeah, mic drop. Yeah, shots fired.
Yeah, words that rocked the world. Although, spoilers, right?
Yeah.
WrestleMania Night 2 was, for the most part, a banger.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that leaves me wondering how I felt about it in the aftermath is the main event.
Ugh.
And maybe, perhaps not for the reasons that many people would think, but we'll get
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Of course, the set is beautiful there in Las Vegas. WrestleMania looks amazing. And to start night two at a very high energy level, the first and opening match is Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair in a triple threat match for the Women's World Championship. And I was really excited for this to be the beginning match of the night because this is one I've been watching with great interest. I believe in our predictions, I had manifested a couple of different routes that this could go. Being a triple threat match, there's room for interference, right? Because there's no DQ.
Yeah.
So I thought, we could see something from Damage Control. We could even see Naomi insert herself into this because clearly she has unfinished business with Miss Bianca Belair. And after the promo on SmackDown where Naomi inserted herself, I felt even more strongly about that. And I believe you solidly predicted that Io Sky goes over because after all of the build-up where Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair have overlooked her the entire time, that would be the right thing to do.
I felt it would be the most satisfying.
That said, before I get into any of the high spots and the details of the match, what were your overall thoughts on this one?
Well, excuse me. I'm the one that's gonna talk about the outfits first. Oh my
Let's
god.
hear it.
Yeah, first of all, I loved Io's jacket. I thought it looked freaking amazing. Her makeup looked great. But Bianca Belair fucking stole the show with her outfit. It was just too much. Oh my god, it was so amazing. And her stepdaughter being out there looking like a mini like a mini Bianca.
With some players doing double dutch on the
Yes.
entrance ramp.
I mean, I was just all about her entrance. She looked good. I also like the fact that she embraces the boos. She does not try to sway the audience to cheer for her. She'll pat the ass at him, and just go on about her business. Which lets me know that if a heel turn were to come about for Bianca, I think she could weather the storm just fine. But this match overall, high energy, some really great spots, and every woman had the opportunity to look really good here. Um, Bianca, of course, a powerhouse. And my God, Rhea, Rhea is the kick queen. Like she's gonna get those kicks off, man. That's what you need to be worried about with her. Although she's a powerhouse, and she could power slam you to fucking hell, right? She could. She could also kick your neck right off of your body, like your neck off your body, and your head just falls on your shoulders. She could also do that. So, I'm liking that. I'm liking the developments of the kicks here that she's got going. Uh, yeah, they all looked great, and this was a really great way to open up the show. Got the energy going, and everybody went to see Rhea. Everybody, her mask was cool, by the way, when she came out. What she was wearing, fucking awesome. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, this ended up being a heck of a match between these three ladies,
Yes.
with everybody making a really good showing. Some of the high spots in this match that stand out in my mind was Rhea Ripley putting Io Sky into the outsider edge, but then throwing her like a spear into Bianca Belair. That was outstanding. We also had a really excellent series. Like there was one point I want to say where I believe Rhea Ripley hit a move on Io Sky. I'm trying to recall it, but it flowed immediately into like a KOD. Like Sky got hit, stumbled immediately into Bianca Belair, and then Bianca KOD'd her, and it
Oh
was like,
yes, I know
wow.
exactly. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't remember what it was that Rhea did. That's yeah, but I
Yeah.
do remember that the move was done to Io. She ends up in the middle of the ring. She stumbles back basically into the loving arms of Bianca Belair,
Yeah.
who gave
And
her a warrior's welcome.
this was pretty much like high octane from start to finish. There was a point where Io Sky landed like early in the match. Io Sky ends up on the turnbuckle and she does a double blockbuster and then follows that up with like a double basement drop kick on both Rhea and Belair. And then similarly near the end of the first segment of the match, Bianca Belair grabs hold of I believe Io Sky and then proceeds to do her version of Three Amigos, but each of them are sort of roll through suplexes. So instead of like spinning to the side, she rolls through a la somebody that's doing rolling Northern Lights suplexes.
Yeah.
If that helps paint the picture in people's minds. And I'll just sort of recount like kind of how the match played out. Sort of in the last 2/3. After hitting those Three Amigos, Belair goes for a handspring moonsault, but Ripley gets in her way and drills her with some clubbing blows to the back. Then Io Sky attempts to launch herself at Belair, and Belair catches her. This is sorry. This actually happens outside of the ring. Io Sky, I think, attempted a dive on Belair, and Belair grabs hold of her and slings her into the barricade. And then Rhea Ripley comes over, and they both sling Io into the barricade. And then after that, I want to say Ripley kicked the brains out of Bianca Belair. So you weren't wrong about those kicks.
Yeah, no, those kicks were dangerous throughout the match.
Yeah. And once they make their way back into the ring in short order, Rhea Ripley picks up Io Sky for the aforementioned Razor's Edge and throws her into Bianca Belair, which knocks Belair into the corner, and then she goes to try and pin Io, but only gets a 2 count. And after that, I want to say Io attempts to do a roll-through double foot stomp, but Rhea blocks it and then reverses it and then makes her way to a prism trap against Io Sky. And Bianca comes up behind Rhea and attempts to get her with the KOD, but Rhea is able to counter out of it. And after that, they kind of have a back and forth where Io Sky gets involved, and she ends up with both Rhea and Bianca in opposite corners. So she hits the bullet train attack back and forth against both of them, I think twice for each. And then steps over Rhea Ripley to ascend to the top turnbuckle, presumably to hit the over the moonsault. And I want to say Belair and Ripley have a short exchange before Ripley goes for an avalanche belly-to-back suplex. But instead, Belair gets a hold of him, or gets a hold of Rhea for a big German suplex. And then I want to say Ripley ends up kicking Bianca Belair with a huge big boot. Again, as you pointed out, like Rhea Ripley was bringing them feet.
Yeah.
Because I think at least twice in this match as well, she ends up hitting that capoeira kick that she likes to do from on the mat, like as a get up move, and it wrecked Bianca and Io, I think, in equal regard. But after the big boot, Io Sky hits a springboard missile drop kick on Ripley. And then I want to say Bianca Belair speared Io Sky. And then she ascends to the top rope for a 450 splash, which landed beautifully. Bianca Belair is really pretty good with that 450.
Yep.
But then Rhea Ripley, gets a hold of her and hits the Riptide, but only for a 2 count, leaving Ripley somewhat shocked. She attempts to do the Riptide again, but Io Sky counters with a DDT. And Ripley then, again, with them kicks Sky in the face. And she then, I want to say, pulls Io Sky into the corner and attempts to get her up for the Avalanche Riptide, but Sky is able to roll out of it, kind of countering it in the middle of the move into a big, deep arm drag off of the top rope. And Sky then ascends and attempts to go for the over the moonsault, but Ripley's able to get both feet up. So it's that brutal like counter where Io Sky has to do a full flip and basically lands, chin first on Rhea's feet and then bounces away. I think that was the move, actually. Remember, we were trying to remember the move that led to, Io pretty much walking into a KOD. It was that one. She attempts the over the moonsault, gets 2 feet to the face, stumbles towards the corner where Belair was, and Belair picks her up and hits the KOD. And so it just went from like Io Sky could be potentially about to win to Io Sky is now demolished.
Yeah. Io Sky, rip.
Yeah. But Ripley is able to interfere and break up the pin, so it's only a 2 count. And Belair is like on the bottom rope just screaming at this point. She's so frustrated.
Yeah.
There's a brief exchange, and Belair ends up rocking Ripley with a hard forearm, but Ripley answers again with them feet with a big straight boot, followed by a forearm. And I want to say she ends up driving Belair face first into the top turnbuckle pad, and Ripley tries to get her up, I think, for a superplex, but Belair blocks it. And I want to say they're sitting up there for a second trying to trade blows back and forth until Ripley headbutts Belair. And I think that knocks Belair off of the top, leaving Rhea up there kind of by herself. And Sky jumps up there and hits the big shote, that kind of uppercut palm strike that she likes.
Yeah.
And then hops in and attempts to hit Rhea Ripley with like an avalanche poison rana, but Ripley just hangs on, like she just powers through it. So when Io like goes backwards theoretically to deliver the poison rana, it's just like nope. Rhea's strength is kind of crazy. Um, and I
You ain't
want to
wrong.
say she not only hangs on, but she then almost like one-armed Alabama slams Io Sky face first into the steel ring post that's on the corner. Um, and at this point, Bianca Belair has recovered enough that she's hopped into the ring and she comes up behind Rhea, who's just basically standing facing the corner on the middle rope, and she gets a hold of Rhea Ripley, presumably for the KOD, but Rhea Ripley is able to like kind of roll off and land on her feet, and then headbutts Bianca, and then she goes for the Riptide, but Bianca counters and lands on her feet. And then Bianca then whips. She uses her hair. She whips Rhea Ripley. So maybe that's the sign. Here comes that heel turn. She's resorting to whatever it takes. She's so frustrated.
Yeah.
Um,
Unlike some people.
but after getting whipped with the braid, Belair's able to pick up Rhea and connect with the KOD. And it looks like, okay, maybe Bianca Belair is going to win it. But that's when Sky, who apparently recovered from being like one-armed Alabama slammed on the top rope, that's when she hits the over the moonsault on. Who did she hit it on? Was it Bianca? I think it was Bianca.
Yeah, I think so.
And with Rhea Ripley having just suffered the effects of the KOD and Bianca getting plastered with the over the moonsault, that allows Io Sky to pick up the victory. So retaining and still the women's world champion is Io Sky. And this was an insane banger of a match. And this falls right in line with your prediction that, Io Sky going over like straightforwardly would be the right thing to do. WWE agreed. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And I was none too surprised that she won. I was just very happy with how they got there. Like the match in general was it was fire.
Yeah, it really was. It was
start to finish.
It was a very solid match between these three women.
Yeah.
I think I was just a little surprised, and maybe that would have just been more than what they were looking for here, because they gave us a solid match. I mean, I'm not complaining that we got a very solid showing and that Io went over, because I felt like the build-up was painting that picture.
Yeah.
I just kind of thought that maybe since it's triple threat, there's no DQ, and there's outside interests that could be involved, that some of that would have come into play. But that's not the route they went with. Again, not disappointed though in what we got. This was a hell of a good match to start out night 2 of WrestleMania.
Yeah. Got it. You hated it. You hated it. You hated everything about it. And
No, I liked it a lot. I'm a big fan of all three of these women. I mean, obviously in the hierarchy, I think Rhea Ripley is my favorite. But Bianca Belair is also a favorite of mine, and Io Sky is just a fire plug of a women's wrestler. Like, she is that good. She is very, very good.
I agree.
And so these ladies were able to really give us a smash mouth banger of a match to open the show. And so well done to everybody involved. Yeah. And congratulations to Io Sky retaining her Women's World Championship and showing that even the tippity top of the women's roster should not ever overlook Io Sky, because they do so to their own peril.
Yep. Don't sleep on her.
Indeed. And that brings us to the second match of the night, which is the Sin City Street Fight involving one Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. And before I get into the details, what were your thoughts on this match?
I thought from the get-go that this was a match that Drew McIntyre had to win. There really was no other way around it. Drew McIntyre is slowly getting to the point where he has become the WWE's version of a villain or a heel in the 80s, where every match was them losing something. They were just there, like they talked all kinds of shit. They talked good game. They gave the faces some heat whenever necessary, but when it came down to it, when it came down to the crunch, they just didn't fucking seal the deal. That was becoming Drew McIntyre. And as much as they'd like to get him into the ring and have him fight with Sammy and have Sammy get obliterated, yeah, we get it. But that just wasn't enough. Like, we were getting to a point where Drew was starting to be a joke. Even his promos were starting to sound like what all his opponents say, which is like him whining. Like, it started to actually ring true, and of it almost got to the point of burying Drew. You know how excuse me. You know how they'll put two wrestlers together and something will happen where one wrestler will bury the other. For example, and it completely, I don't think this was on purpose, but the heat are the little tiff between Baron Corbin and Pat McAfee back in the day. That almost ruined Baron Corbin's, like, I kind of think it was the beginning of the end, where like the bum ass Corbin chants, um, like
Yeah,
that. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like that
Yes,
literally.
I agree. Pat McAfee verbally annihilated Baron Corbin. Like bum ass Corbin
Yes,
became too. But I don't think that
and
alone did it. I mean, there's a
no, no,
long
no.
history of Baron getting like brutally buried in the
I
WWE. But
I
I see what
agree,
you're saying.
but that was the beginning of the end for this particular bout with Baron Corbin's run in WWE. I think. And there was really nothing they could do to get him from that particular like to get him from under the bum ass Corbin. Like, there was nothing. And I don't think they tried too hard. So, I'm not trying to give them. I'm just saying this was a situation that kind of just like a snowball, like just a snowball rolling down a hill of shit that just got fucking bigger and crazier and stinkier as time progressed. That is kind of where I feel Drew McIntyre's career was going, because every fucking run he had, every time he had a problem with the wrestler, he would talk all kinds of shit. He would get to the point where he would beat them up, and look dominant for a second, but then he wouldn't close the deal,
Yeah.
wouldn't win the
Yep.
match, and then he'd go on and talk about how he was stabbed in the back, or how he was betrayed, or how. And at that point, people started, his opponents would go, whining about this, and I'm like, oh shit, this could actually fucking ruin this dude, like, honestly, because it started to, that whining shit started to stick. And if it did so with me, I know it was doing so with other people. And Drew McIntyre, as he's a master on the mic, he is that dude. He gets on the mic and he cuts really good promos whenever they let him be like the bad guy and not the whiner. When he's up and he's talking some shit, come on, he's the one that gave us burger after burger, like he can hang on the mic, but that's not what they were doing. They weren't letting him even do that. They were just like, get on there and talk about how many times you've been betrayed, how many times you've been bad, and like, it's like, ah, fuck me, that nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear him talk mad shit to his opponent, the way Damian Priest was allowed to do.
Yeah, I agree.
But
And I agree with you wholeheartedly that McIntyre throughout most of 2024 was like buried into the ground. And
yeah,
I don't there seems to be this through line of like humbling the guys that look like they should in every facet of their being be the top guy.
yeah,
Like especially bigger wrestlers. Like I've complained for a while how they make big wrestlers just do stupid shit in order to get like these much smaller opponents over. And
yeah,
I mean McIntyre, he has every attribute that I would think you'd want. Like nobody would blink twice at him being the champion because he looks like a walking action figure. He's tall, he's handsome, he looks chiseled, jacked as shit. He's good on the mic. Like he should be the guy. and yet they seem to have this perverse love of like taking that guy and humbling the crap out of him.
For some reason. And I thought that that would be something that died off, when a certain someone, he who must not be named, I think it's like Voldemort or something, whatever. Like whenever he left the company, I thought, burying, like, I thought that would be over because honestly, like, okay, if Vince was around with Jey Uso right now, Jey Uso would have been buried. He would not be as big as he is right now because
Yeah, yeah,
that's not the guy that Vince wants. Absolutely not. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the fans want. So I thought that we'd gotten past that because they seem to be listening to some degree to what the fans want. The damn near riot that people had last WrestleMania whenever it was going to be Roman and the Rock, and people were like, "Oh hell no!" We need Cody to finish this shit that you guys started damn near 2 years ago. So nobody was feeling that, and they listened. So I thought, yeah, hey, it's over. I mean, maybe we could come away from that. But for some reason, they just decided to take that angle with Drew. And let's be honest, you're absolutely correct. The face of the company, the mascot, the quarterback that you'd put on the cover of your fucking video game is Drew McIntyre. He's he's a walking action figure.
yeah, yep.
I mean, he is
With sword included. I mean, he
with
came out
sword
dressed
included.
as the Doom Slayer, and it's like it's completely believable. Like he looks like an action hero.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, he could definitely be that guy, and they know it. And so in order to make it look like maybe he can't be that guy, they have him do shit like this. It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. You wouldn't bury Brock Lesnar like this. I seriously doubt you would do some shit like this.
Yeah,
Not yeah,
I
but
can only I can only hope, without giving away too much here, that maybe there's a turnaround in 2025 from this point for McIntyre, and he starts on the come up.
I certainly hope so because my man needs his run before like give him his flowers now. He's still here. Like let him do his thing, let him shine bright like a diamond, so that when he gets ready to fucking retire, he'll have his little stint. Like you guys can't give him the belt during the pandemic, which is honestly one of the worst times. One of the worst fucking times to have the goddamn belt, man. That was a rough ass time. He's got to have more than that. Like I honestly think he deserves more than that. So I don't know. You
Yeah,
know what? If you
I
guys had
agree.
more belts, yeah, I'm going back to that. I'm getting back on that more belt bullshit. If you guys have more belts, then this would not be a problem. You'd
True.
have more belts for the superstars that you guys have because you guys got unbelievable talent there. Unbelievable talent. There's so many people there that need fucking belts that should have a belt on them. You guys fucking know it. You could add like 2 or 3 more belts that would give them more things to fight for, but it also won't make all belts pointless. But what do I know?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think they have so much talent, but only so much spotlight time, even with as much television as they're doing right now.
Yeah.
Um, but that said, I'm gonna go ahead and give the rundown of how this match played out.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Before you do, I just want to say this match. Well, because I didn't even really talk about the match. The match I thought was freaking. It was a banger. Uh, it was a banger. Damian Priest made a call, and Drew McIntyre answered that shit, and he he answered that shit with yeah, he meant it.
Indeed, yeah, both guys came bringing their A game. Just to run down the first segment of the match, it starts out with both men going heavy with the strikes at the very beginning. And then at a certain point, they end up outside the ring early on, and Priest throws McIntyre ribs first into the barricade. Um, And after an exchange after that, McIntyre hits a vertical suplex on the rampway against Priest. Then McIntyre grabs the steel stairs and puts them into the ring. Apparently, McIntyre was all about stairs because he went after the stairs early on, like no stairs left behind in this match.
Yeah, that was like the theme. Like the word of the match was stairs. Every time you heard it or said it, you had to scream.
Yep. But after putting I think it was actually the base of the ring stair. You know how it's two segments, a top part and a bottom part? Yeah. He takes the top part off, and then he gets the bottom part and rolls that, or pushes it rather, into the ring. And Damian Priest then picks up the top part and flings him into McIntyre's face. And again, Priest whips McIntyre ribs first into the barricade. Then Priest goes out and gets a table and puts it in the ring. And then I want to say McIntyre ends up getting a hold of Priest again on the outside and smashes his head onto the ring stairs, and then follows that up with a head smash to the announce table. And then drives Priest face first into the ring post. So Priest is just eating all of the furniture. He's yum yum. This tastes good.
Yeah, he's a termite right now. Just eating all the wood.
Yep. And then McIntyre finishes off the first segment by repeatedly hitting Damian Priest with ring stairs. And then while Priest is recovering, he actually goes over and grabs a cell phone from, I guess, somebody he knew, and comes back over and takes a selfie with Damian Priest lying beat up on the floor next to him, and then runs the phone back to him. Then entering kind of the middle segment of this match, McIntyre, I want to say, beats on Priest a little more before throwing him back into the ring. And then basically just drills him with a steel chair shot. And then he goes outside and sets up two tables on the floor between the ring and the announce tables. And when he gets back in, he's met with some forearm shivers from Priest on the apron, but Drew headbutts with a Glasgow kiss his way back in. And then he gets in and he clotheslines Priest over the opposite rope near the entrance ramp. And then Drew did something insane. Drew then does a run across the ring and takes off for a somersault plancha. Drew McIntyre at I want to say something like 280 pounds and 6'6", flips over the top rope, landing on Damian Priest. Insane forever.
Forever.
And then, of course, McIntyre recovers and poses and tosses Priest back into the ring. And he looks like he's setting up for the Claymore, but Priest picks up the chair that he was beaten in the head with earlier and literally yeets it at McIntyre. And it glances off McIntyre, and McIntyre's kind of surprised, he thought that was going to suck more than it did. So he recovers fairly quickly and does a very short wind up Claymore, which only gets the 2 count, I guess, because he didn't get enough of a running start.
Yeah.
And then McIntyre gets up and just goes ham with the chair across the back of Priest, and then proceeds to wrap the chair around Priest's neck, looking like he's going to go for a decapitator Claymore while Priest is in there. But when he runs at him for the Claymore, Priest with just one arm reaches out and counters with a choke slam to a running McIntyre, which looked surprisingly good. You know how sometimes you'll see a choke slam and it looked, that was weak. This was actually really good. It looked solid. And then Priest removes the chair from around his own neck and proceeds to, beat the bejesus out of McIntyre with the chair. And then Priest takes the chair and, as we enter into the last segment of the match, he takes the chair and he wedges it between the top and middle turnbuckles. And then as he's stepping back towards McIntyre, McIntyre lifts him up for a huge spine buster. And then McIntyre sets up a table in the center of the ring. After that, he gets Priest up on the top turnbuckle, and he attempts to hit an avalanche white noise. And I think we got distracted because I know that McIntyre has borrowed the white noise from Sheamus, but I think Michael or somebody straight up said Sheamus, attempts the white noise, and I'm like, no, it's McIntyre attempting the white noise, not Sheamus.
Yeah, I know. I was like, huh? Did someone just say Sheamus? And you were like,
did he say Sheamus? Yep.
Yeah. Crazy.
However, before Drew's able to land it, Priest counters out of it and lands back on his feet. And then he proceeds to lay into McIntyre's back, leaving McIntyre kind of slumped on the middle rope, where Priest is able to deliver the Razor's Edge. He grabs hold of him, puts him in the crucifix, and drops him through that table that McIntyre had set up. And then he attempts the pin, but only gets a 2 count. Everybody sort of struggles back up onto their feet after that. And then McIntyre rakes Priest's eyes and hits a future shock DDT on the ring steps that he had brought in there, which it looked brutal. And he goes for the pin, but only gets a 2 count on Priest. Then they exchange blows for a bit before McIntyre headbutts Priest. And then Priest bounces off the ropes for like that huge rebound lariat that he likes to do.
Yeah.
And then he sets up McIntyre for old school. But as Priest walks across the middle ropes, McIntyre eventually grabs hold of him and pushes him. And this is where those 2 tables he set up before come into play, because he sends Priest crashing through those 2 tables onto the floor. And this bump looked sick. It was just ugh. Because Priest is a big man who just got yeeted basically over from the top rope and down through these tables. And it looked mean.
Yeah.
Eventually, McIntyre kind of recovers enough while Priest is out there just burnt, and grabs hold of Priest and puts him back into the ring. And he guides Priest over to that wedge chair that Priest set up earlier in the match, and basically lays his head. He kind of has Priest over the middle rope, like Priest is straddling it, but in a kind of bent over position. So he walks him over. So essentially he's laying his head almost like a pillow against this chair that's in the corner. And then he backs up and just full bore claymores Priest in the head right into the chair. And this just looked ferocious. This was incredible looking. That they managed to make essentially a middle ropes, a height claymore look like this should destroy you after everything else they've shown. And from there, after that, McIntyre just straight up picks up the pinfall victory because Priest is obliterated by this.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he might be. Priest might need a priest after that. But McIntyre got that dominant victory that, you were just talking about how he needed that after having such a burial in 2024. He straight up kicked the shit out of Damian Priest in this match.
Yep.
And now let me ask you, we did talk a bit about McIntyre and how he needed something that would bring him back from effectively becoming a cliche villain and being somewhat buried with the 2024 run. Does this bury Priest at all?
Nah, not at all. Priest still looks dominant. How often can you say Priest has gotten beat like that?
Not ever that I'm aware of.
Nah,
I mean, I've seen Priest put through some paces and he's lost his matches, sure, But
Yeah.
this is the first time I've ever just straight up seen Damian Priest get his ass handed to him.
Right. So if anything, I'm thinking that what will most likely happen is maybe they'll get some maybe they'll get like some heat going with these two, like they'll get a run going. Uh and we can watch them go back and forth. I'd be down with that. But I don't think Damien looks buried. I don't are buried. He's not buried yet. It's when he comes out to the ring and he talks about how he was beat and how he wants a rematch, and then somebody like Akira Tozawa comes out and has a match with him and ends up winning on some kind of like schoolboy pin. Or so, then it's like, okay, they're trying to bury him. Or even somebody that like what's his name, Pete Dunne, or the big strong boy, somebody like that, or half a DIY Johnny Gargano comes out and um beats Damien. Then I feel like they're trying to, or are they trying to bury him or something? Yeah. Or
Yeah,
even Otis.
yeah. Although, I mean, Otis, I could believe could pull it off on an evening because I think they hold him back. Like that dude is freakishly strong.
He is.
So like in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, it was no surprise. Like no part of me was like, my willing suspension of disbelief is ruined that he was able to double clothesline both of the Creed boys out, and so, like, when he does feats of strength that could potentially demolish somebody, that I could believe, like, so maybe
Mhm.
he gets lucky and hits you, with just the right move. I could see him picking up a surprise victory, more so than, like, maybe Akira Tozawa, right? Because even out of a roll up pin, Akira weighs what, 50 pounds?
Mhm.
So, like, anybody could kick out of it. So I could see it. I could see it being less of a burial if it were Otis.
Yeah, but I mean, Otis could do it. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, technically speaking, they could all do it, quote unquote, do it. But I put Otis in that, and I stated it the way I did, like, and even Otis, because Otis isn't known to win a fucking match. So
Yeah, that's
if
true.
if Damian Priest and Otis had a match, no matter how much Otis could do it, if he did it, people would go, damn,
Yeah.
because it's Otis.
Yeah.
So, like, he really is no different. It's not like Xavier Woods or anything coming out. If Xavier and Damien had a match, and Xavier, because I'm using smaller dudes, guys that are considerably smaller than Damien, because that's how they would squash you. That's how like they like to squash the big dudes. They like to use smaller, more agile, faster, even the luchadors for stuff like that. Um, like if Damien Priest, I'm not if Damien, sorry, if Drew McIntyre had a match with Dragon Lee, in the like in the near past or whatever, he probably would have been beaten by Dragon Lee. It would have been some kind of roll up pin or some schoolboy, some such nonsense. And then, it would have been a quick pin. And then Dragon Lee rolls out of the ring, with his arms up. And Drew will be sitting in the middle of the ring like, what the fuck just happened? Like, that's that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
but I don't think so. I don't think this was a burial. I think this was more of a match of equals. And this night, Drew McIntyre was the victor. And maybe on another night, hopefully, Drew McIntyre is out there celebrating his victory, and Damian Priest ain't having that shit. And they go at it again. Let's keep this fucking momentum going, keep that same energy, and then guys have another match. Like you can keep this going till Bad Blood. Like keep it going, man. Give both of them something to do. Do not put Drew in the fucking boring ass mid card matches anymore with like smaller competitors that he could beat up. Don't Megan Bain him either. Don't fucking bring out two no names. We're past that. Let this dude be a superstar and have matches with other equal competitors. Please.
Indeed. So altogether, a solid match, with kind of a brutal finish, and McIntyre is looking back on track.
One hopes.
One would hope.
Yeah.
But that brings us to the third match of the night. It is the WWE Intercontinental Championship between Braun Breaker, Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio in a fatal four-way. And
Yeah.
what were your thoughts on this one?
Probably my favorite match of the night. Again, this was more high octane. Like these guys, they brought it for night 2, honestly. And this match was just fun. There were no weak points here. Nobody looked bad. Hell, Carlito came out towards the end of the match and he didn't look bad. Carlito, they were fucking using him as a fucking powerhouse, as they should be doing this whole time, man. Finn looked fucking ridiculous. My boy, Dominic Mysterio, what? Oh my god, but Dom, Dirty Dom came out there and fucking threw down. This was a fun match. Like I said, high octane. And I was very, very happy with the outcome. Penta, you know, I am a Penta girl. I'll mark out for some Penta. I was very happy to see him, but I was very happy with the outcome. Like I'm okay. I'm okay with the outcome. I was very happy with it.
Yeah.
And how it went down. You predicted who was going to win. I predicted how he was going to win. And together, we can fucking write a WrestleMania.
Yep. Yeah, I think
I'm done.
when we were discussing it initially, I think your prediction started out maybe with Braun Breaker retaining.
Yeah.
But then I gave my prediction of Dominic Mysterio winning, possibly getting left in the ring after Finn Balor gets taken out by Braun Breaker or something, and he's like, well, what should I do? And he goes for the win. And you piggybacked off of that and said, no, what if Dom pins Finn Balor? And spoiler, that's essentially how the match turned out.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna talk, folks, how we got there. But you mentioned marking out for Penta. How much did you like it when he was coming out and he did his strut, but then threw in a little shoulder shimmy?
Yeah. I'm like, uh-oh, not the shoulders. We're not activating the shoulders too, are we? Too much.
Yep.
People ain't ready.
It thrills us both to no end when he does the shimmy, and it has been an endless source of amusement that every time the camera shows up on him and he realizes he's on camera, he'll hit that strut every time, every single time.
Dude, it doesn't matter where he is. He could just be walking. The second he realizes that there's a fucking camera, it is time to strut.
It's
dude.
Great.
Yeah, I'm highly amused. Yeah, the only thing that I need for Penta to do is keep his tongue in his mouth. Stop it, Penta. Stop, brother. Brother, my brother in Christ, we are here to watch you have a match. Okay, this is not Pornhub. This is not YouPorn. Stop it. Stop. In your mouth, please. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Indeed. So, to recap the match a bit, in the first segment, it like the minute the bell rings, Breaker attempts to spear Mysterio, who avoids it, and then he ends up tangling with Penta, and Braun, I think, knocks him down and starts stomping on his chest, and this is the opportunity where Mysterio and Finn decide they're going to gang up on Breaker, and they dump him out of the ring, and I think he goes. I think they go with him, And this allows Penta to hit a massive flying crossbody. And then no, they didn't go with him. But Penta hits a crossbody block, and then he dumps Baylor out of the ring, or Finn, and then he proceeds to launch Mysterio over the ropes. And now with all three men outside, Penta then lands a massive somersault plancha, and it looked really good. And I want to say there's a moment there where he's sort of dealing with the Judgment Day, and out of nowhere comes Braun Breaker. Like, he flew in like a 747 off screen and like flying shoulder tackles. Then he rolls Penta back into the ring. Penta then answers with a super kick to Breaker, hits the Cero Miedo taunt, and attempts a springboard crossbody, but Breaker catches him out of the air into a massive World's Strongest Slam. And then Finn Balor is getting back into the ring, and he runs into Breaker, who then does a press power slam to him. So Breaker's looking very dominant in this moment. And then he hits the ropes and spears Mysterio for a 2 count. And I think Finn broke up that count, and so he gets the attention of Breaker. So Finn's like, "Please don't destroy me." But Breaker's not having that, so he proceeds to get him, I want to say, in the corner and starts hitting him with those repeated clubbing shoulder blocks. And then I think Penta steps up and grabs hold of Breaker from behind, which earns him a back elbow smash and several kicks to the gut and repeated shoulder blocks. But then Finn, I want to say, sling blades the brains out of Breaker, and I want to say Penta followed that up by sling blading the brains out of Finn, if I remember correctly. And then that leaves Penta and Mysterio, and they go at it for a bit. And then Penta hits like a delayed double corner drop kick. Heading into the middle of the match, Penta is kicking Finn in the ribs and hits him with the sacrifice arm breaker, which always just looks so nasty. Like, I'm not exactly sure how they're selling that, because it really does look like it should snap your arm.
Yeah.
So it's ugly, that move. And then I want to say Penta attempts the Penta driver, or attempts the Penta driver on Finn, but when he gets him up, Breaker comes up behind both of them and proceeds to double German suplex both Penta and Finn. And that's like, Breaker is crazy.
He is.
And Breaker follows that up by popping back up onto his feet. I think he kipped up and then proceeded to flex and turn even redder. But Penta then sends Breaker shoulder first into the steel ring post. The great equalizer for all power wrestlers, that ring post. Then I want to say Mysterio grabs hold of Penta and pulls him down to the mat, and then hits a slingshot senton over the apron. Over the top rope from the apron. And then proceeds to stomp repeatedly on Penta's chest. And I think also hits like a basement drop kick on him. And then Mysterio picks up Penta and delivers the Three Amigos. And it's around this time that Carlito shows up at ringside. And I think Finn and Mysterio then get a hold of Penta and deliver a double vertical suplex. And then they both kick Breaker. And they attempt to do the same thing with him, but Breaker reverses it and basically suplexes both Finn and Mysterio. And it's insane the way he does this. A lot of times when a stronger wrestler is attempting that reverse double suplex, it looks very like, you only just barely pulled that off. Breaker like holds him up in the vertical position for a few seconds. Like, it's
Yeah.
insane how strong this guy is. And then he proceeds to just, like, with ease, toss both Finn and Mysterio up over his head in overhead belly-to-belly suplexes. Then I want to say there's an exchange, and Breaker ends up putting Finn on the top turnbuckle. And I want to say at that point, maybe Mysterio is trying to intervene, but he gets hit with an inside-out lariat. And then Breaker runs up and hits the Frankensteiner for a 2 count on Finn, who I think was still up on the top rope. And then I want to say he attempts to go for a spear on Finn, but Finn blocks it. And Penta then shows back up in the ring and super kicks Finn. And then Mysterio drop kicks Penta to the floor. And then he's left in the ring, it's Mysterio and Finn. And it's at this point that Mysterio, that dirty, dirty, lying, cheating, stealing villain, decides to drop kick Finn, whose back is to him, and it sets up Finn for the 619. And we're like, oh snap, the Judgment Day is it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be uncomfortable in the Judgment Day.
Yep, they're gonna be talks.
Yeah, they're gonna have to have a chat. But at this point, Mysterio attempts to 619 Finn, and Finn counters it, and then he basically catches Mysterio's feet and then drags Mysterio back into the ring. And Mysterio at this point is attempting to plead with Finn, and Finn ain't hearing it, so he kicks the legs out from under Mysterio and then proceeds to stomp, like relentlessly stomp on Mysterio. And that's when Penta re-enters the equation, and I want to say hits Finn with a Penta driver for a 2 count. And then Breaker shows back up in the ring, and Penta and him exchange some chops, and Penta slaps Breaker in the chest, which Breaker responds with a rising knee, and then Penta with another super kick. Penta brought all of the super kicks to this match. And then I want to say Breaker attempts to clothesline him, but he ducks it. And then I think Carlito managed to get Breaker to tumble to the floor by pulling the ring rope down as Breaker was bouncing off the ropes. And Mysterio then gets a hold of Penta in a quick roll-up pin, but it only gets a 2 count. And then Penta, again with them super kicks Mysterio. And then he hits him with a kick to the midsection, and then proceeds to absolutely annihilate Dominic with a huge Mexican destroyer. But this only gets a 2 count because Carlito ends up pulling Penta clean out of the ring, which is completely legal in this Fatal 4-Way. And Carlito, at this point, looks like he's about to body Penta, like you said, using him a bit as a power wrestler, leveraging his size. And he bounces Penta's head on the announce table. And then he looks like, at least, I think they had reversed the position of the Spanish announce tables, where like the English announce table is the one that's more to the right side than the left. And so Carlito clears the announce table, and he looks like he's setting up maybe for, I don't know, a backstabber or perhaps a spine buster. We'll never know, because the minute he gets up on top of the table, off of the other table, which is a Spanish announce table, Braun Breaker runs across the table, and this table still has the bonnet on it, so he's doing this just across the front part that's flat. He runs across and dives from that table some, what did they say, like 15 feet, he spears the ever-loving hell out of Carlito on the other announce table, collapsing the table, destroying Carlito, and potentially hurting himself because he runs into the metal portion of the announce table, on his own landing.
Yeah.
But this was just ridiculous. I can't say I've seen anything like that before. That was absolutely absurd. And it's becoming somewhat of a meme that Carlito is eating the biggest spears that Braun Breaker has to offer. And this was another one. Like, Carlito's just burnt, and we don't really get to see too much of Carlito after that point. So yeah, that was insane. But then Breaker gets up, and I want to say gets a spear off. Like, he gets back into the ring and he spears the absolute snot out of Penta. But then Mysterio drop kicks Breaker to the middle ropes and is able to deliver the 619. And it looks like he's going up for the frog splash, except his own Judgment Day partner, Finn, gets up there and kind of like crutches Mysterio, knocking his feet out from under him. So he basically racks himself on the top rope as he's going for the frog splash. And then Finn runs along the apron to the other turnbuckle and climbs the top and... Oh, no, wait. No. Sorry. Then he gets into the ring and he hits Breaker with the sling blade. And then following the sling blade, Finn then blasts Breaker with the shotgun dropkick, setting him up for the coup de grace. And I know that's not how that's typically pronounced, but that's literally what he calls it, the coup de grace instead of the coup de grace. But he drills it, and it looks like Finn is going to catch the win off of Braun Breaker, except it's at this point that Mysterio has recovered on the top rope enough that he's able to deliver the frog splash to Finn Balor, who's attempting to pin Breaker, and then Mysterio immediately pins Finn. So it's just as you had predicted, that it would be Dominic Mysterio. I said it'd be a win, but I thought it would be something where he had no choice. In this, you were the one who predicted it would be far more dramatic if he actually straight up pinned Finn Balor, which is exactly how it played out.
Yes, I enjoyed it.
With that, Dominic Mysterio comes away the winner of this fatal four-way match for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Dirty Dominic Mysterio is the new Intercontinental Champ.
Hey. That's
Insane.
a yay moment. I'm happy. I was happy.
Well, I think it was a yay moment for a lot of people because, as you had pointed out, and we had both noticed, Dominic Mysterio has been steadily kind of getting more cheers from the crowd. Yeah. Like I think he managed to pull off that flip where he was the guy that everyone hated, and then they got to where they loved to hate him, and now he's getting over to where they just love him.
Yeah.
And so he did not receive any sort of resounding boos or anything. In fact, in the aftermath of that match, he did what he usually does. He picked up his belt and then he started to head up the entrance ramp because he didn't want any more smoke. But then about halfway through his climb up the entrance ramp, he turns around and beelines through this, and then slides into the ring and runs up to the middle turnbuckle ropes in a corner and holds up his belt to resounding cheers.
Yep.
So Dominic Mysterio is over with the fans.
A good.
Yep, a very interesting turn of events, indeed.
Yeah. Yep.
And again, this sets up some seriously uncomfortable situations with the Judgment Day, heading into the coming weeks. I'm here for it. I look forward to it. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yep.
But that then sets us up for the fourth match of the night, which is Randy Orton's, 20th appearance at WrestleMania mystery opponent. He just wanted a match at WrestleMania. He didn't care with who. And I seem to recall that in our predictions, I gave the caveat that it could be anyone, but I also said that the most likely culprits would probably be like Joe Hendry or Sheamus. And it. Go ahead.
Well, I just said yeah. That's what you
Okay.
said. Yeah.
And it turns out that it was in fact one of those two. It was Joe Hendry. And when Randy Orton came to the ring, the crowd was hype. But once the mystery opponent was revealed, the crowd was like insane. I mean, there's apparently a bunch of believers in the WrestleMania crowd.
Yeah. More than I thought. I mean, because there were a lot of people in there, like 66,000 or something like that, and quite a few knew who Joe Hendry was. So that was good.
Yeah, it was. It was really nice. I mean, there was some good chance of We Believe. And I mean, it's not terribly surprising that the wrestling fans would know who Joe Hendry is. He's kind of a very big crossover talent from TNA. But at the same time, he's also done a stint on NXT, so it's not like it's his first rodeo in the WWE. But it was still really cool that many people were believers.
Yeah.
And so he gets his whole full entrance for WrestleMania, with the waving of the hands, and he makes his way to the ring and he does the spin around, and we're marking out so hard. It's like Joe Hendry. And there's a moment where there's a bit of a standoff once the match begins, and Hendry and Orton are kind of looking at each other, listening to the crowd chants. And, you're getting some we believes, and Randy's like nodding, like, okay. And then, you're also getting, Randy and RKO. And so the crowd is here. They're very in for this match. And this wasn't a long match, but it did everything it needed to do. Right out the gate, Orton attempts to go for the RKO, but Hendry counters into a roll-up pin and gets a 2 count. And then Hendry taunts Orton. Then I want to say Orton kicks Hendry in the gut, but Hendry then runs around him and drops Orton with a shoulder tackle. Then there's a reversal by Orton, and he kicks Hendry in the gut again. And I want to say he ducks a clothesline from Orton and hits a nice-looking neck breaker. Then Hendry, of course, plays to the crowd and attempts to go for the standing ovation. But it's a little early in the match because he gets his hand kind of around Randy Orton's neck, and Orton just sort of grabs Joe Hendry's hand and is like, "Are you serious?" and knocks it away while delivering the Greco-Roman eye poke, the classic wrestling maneuver.
Yeah, very classic.
And then Orton hits his fire up where he hits the 2 clotheslines, and then Hendry attempts a clothesline and then bounces off the ropes into a waiting Orton's power slam. And then Orton hits the draping DDT on Joe Hendry. And then he sets up for the full RKO with the spinning taunt and the pounding of the mat. But Hendry blocks it and then picks up Randy Orton, which is no mean feat. Randy Orton is just shy of 300 pounds these days. But he picks him up in sort of a cross-body hold and delivers a massive fall-away slam. And then Hendry's able to kip up back onto his feet. And he strikes his signature pose, kind of rising up with his hands at his sides. And he does the spin around again. But he took so long setting up the signature pose that when he turns around and cheesy grins at the fixed camera, Orton comes out of nowhere and hits the RKO. And it was so good. It was so good. And then that allows Randy Orton to pick up the victory. And after the match is over, Orton helps Hendry back on his feet, shakes hands with him, gives him a pat on the back, and raises his hand, like, good on you for showing up. But then as Hendry goes to leave the ring, he spins him back around and plants him with an RKO. And then and then Randy Orton proceeds to duplicate Hendry's, taunt that leads usually to the standing ovation. And he rises up and spins around and hits his, sort of two hands to the sky pose that Randy Orton does. And this match was everything. It was everything it needed to be, and it was absolutely everything that the fans wanted to see.
Yeah.
I mean, it couldn't have played out more perfectly. Was it a 5-star match of the night? No, it wasn't. Was it sports entertainment at its finest? Yes, it damn well was.
Yeah.
And this was just great. This was great all the way around. Randy looked good. Joe Hendry got a WrestleMania moment. And looked good as well. This was just great.
Yes.
Top tier entertainment in professional wrestling is what that was. It was pure, unadulterated fan service.
I was very happy to see Joe Hendry. One of these days, I'm gonna say his name without fucking taking the D out.
Joe Henry?
Yeah, I was very happy to see him. I would have been happy to see Sheamus too, but yeah. And I'm not gonna go down the list on the match. That's not my thing. But just to give my 2 cents, I thought it was a good showing for Joe, and it was not a burial, as some people have called it. I don't think Randy Orton squashed him at all. In fact, Randy Orton after the match had good things to say about Joe Hendry. So, I think people can calm down. I don't think that was a squash, and if anything, you might look to see Joe Hendry on the main roster of WWE fairly soon. I'm thinking he's gonna get a call up. But that's just me. We'll see. But yeah, it was a great match. It was fun. And it was, I guess it was this night's fun match.
Yeah.
And it did just that. Served its purpose just fine.
It was good and fun. And I agree with you. I mean, I can't imagine a more telegraphed in eventuality than Joe Hendry appearing on the main roster of WWE at this point. I mean, he's done a stint in NXT. He appeared at the Royal Rumble. They've got him stepping into the ring with their very best talent. I mean, he was in there with Sheamus and Reigns in the Rumble. And here he is having a WrestleMania match with Randy Orton. I think it's all but a foregone conclusion that we're going to see Joe Hendry in the WWE in the not too distant future. Full time.
I agree, and I hope.
Indeed. Fun times. That was just a good match. That leads us into our 5th match of the night, which is AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. And I don't know that I had any strong prediction for this match one way or the other. I don't remember if I did.
Yeah, I don't remember if I did either.
So I don't think this was a match that we had any strong feelings about one way or the other. I did feel I think we did say this just feels like something for AJ and Logan to do. It's just a match for the sake of.
Yeah. It started. Yeah, I mean this whole heat started feeling that way. I remember whenever it was announced, because I mean I think we even missed the first time they were even trying to build heat between these two. I just didn't I didn't get it. I felt like it was more of a, we need something for AJ to do, so we'll give him Logan Paul. And I mean that's not like a punishment or anything. I'm glad that they saw the fact that AJ needed to be, especially in WrestleMania. I mean, he comes back He comes back to the game looking like he ate the smaller version of himself in some like some muscle some muscle ritual at the gym. So they had to use it. I'm glad they did. I'm glad they're using AJ right now because he looks freaking phenomenal, pun intended. But it ended up being, even with the lack of the heat, this ended up being a really good match. AJ and Logan both looked really good. Logan is, I know that there is another guy from another wrestling promotion that says that he's a generational talent, but Logan Paul is a generational talent. This dude gets in the ring and cuts like he makes gold. Like every time he gets into the ring, I can't think of a time that he has gotten into a ring in WWE and not made that match just money. If you know what I mean. This guy,
Yeah, I do.
like honestly, he's got it all, and yeah, I thought that he would outshine AJ. I don't think he did that at all. I think AJ showed his what's the word? I guess his experience, because that's really what it all came down to. I even think there was a point in the match where the commentators uh were talking about. Oh no, that was about Braun Breaker, where they were talking about what does he not, what doesn't he have, when they were going down the accolades of like what this guy has done and what he can accomplish. They were like, what else? What doesn't he have? And believe I said time or experience. The same goes here with Logan. It's just experience. That's all. That's all there is. Once he gets that, then this is gonna be that he's gonna be unstoppable. Like unstoppable. Uh, Him and AJ ended up looking really good together, and I was pleasantly surprised with how into this match I was. Because I honestly did not think I would be. Also, Logan Paul's entrance was fire with the drone.
Yeah,
He kept catching. Oh, stop it! Oh, what sick. Haters gonna hate, I guess, but that shit was sick. That shit was sick.
I agree. And I think if there's a major takeaway from this, it's that Logan Paul really is as capable in that ring as he says he is. You can hate him for whatever reasons you hate him, and that's your prerogative. But I would be hard pressed to offer any credence to anybody who's hating Paul for what he actually does in the ring or in the WWE.
Yeah, you can't hate on that.
His work here has been phenomenal. And this was no different. I know I said of yesterday that Charlotte and Tiffany, because the buildup was not great, in my opinion, their match would have to be like an absolute banger. Regrettably, it was not. Mm-hmm. Similarly, I felt the same way. Like I was like, not that the buildup was terrible, but like there just wasn't a lot of strong heat here. I didn't feel. So coming into this match, really the selling feature would be a banger of a match. And that's exactly what we got. AJ and Logan freaking brought it in this match.
They look fantastic together.
Yeah. And Paul continues to show off like stuff that, we just don't see. He always tends to bring something new to every game. And they made a point at one point. AJ used his veteran experience to kind of get Paul wrapped up in the ring apron and kind of hockey fight, beat him up with the ring apron.
Yeah.
But then a little bit later in the match, Paul uses the apron against Styles, and the announcers made the point that he adapts very quickly to whatever he learns. I mean, he's like a sponge.
Yeah.
And I felt like they made that point pretty good. Like it matched up with what we were seeing. in that Paul had never used the ring apron like that before, probably never even thought to do so until AJ showed him, and then he immediately applies it himself.
Yep.
And Paul was just a highlight reel. I mean, almost everything
Yeah.
he did was a high spot for the match. There was one point where he hit an alley-oop powerbomb, and they called it something like the overbomb. And I'm like, I've never seen him hit that move. How do you guys know that this is his move? Like already, like it's the first time I've seen him do it. Maybe in dark matches or something that I'm unaware of.
Yeah. The Paul from Grace.
Yeah, I mean he's got like his whole repertoire now, and of course at one point he hits the buckshot lariat, and Michael Cole is trying to call it anything but a buckshot lariat, only to have Pat McAfee immediately refer to it as a buckshot lariat.
Buckshot lariat.
It's fine. You can call it what it is.
Yeah, don't be scared. It's okay.
But yeah, like pretty much everything Logan Paul did was a highlight reel here, and I absolutely recommend watching the match. I'm not going to line by line this one. I did so in some of the earlier matches because there was more of a story being told that those moves needed to be a part of. But in this one, these guys just went after each other. There was another majorly cool high spot where Logan Paul reverses out of a maneuver and catches hold of AJ Styles and sets him up for a Styles clash and hits it, only to then have AJ turn it around and counter into his own Styles clash. So they back-to-back hit each other with Styles clashes, and both of them looked incredible.
Yeah.
Just to sort of give the take on the end of the match, there's a point where after this slobber knocker of a match, one of Paul's little weaselly minions heads out and starts, walking low on the side of the ring to avoid being spotted by the referee. And of course, he's got those brass knuckles. And before he's able to hand those brass knuckles to anyone, out comes Karrion Kross, who stops this little minion.
Pop.
To a huge pop. Like, people were glad to see. I think they were as glad as anything to see Karrion involve himself against this little minion. I think they called him Jeff.
Yeah. My name's Jeff.
So he ends up grabbing a hold of this guy's hand while he's trying to hand, the brass knuckles into the ring. And Karrion Kross stops him because Kross's vested interest is in Styles winning this match against Logan Paul.
For reasons.
And so he gets the brass knuckles off of him, and I want to say he just decks this dude, and like that's it for Jeff. Jeff's part in this story is over. And then Styles comes over because he sees Karrion out there, and he's like, "What do you want?" And Kross is telling him, "You've got to hit him with these knuckles. You've got to do it. Just do it." And Styles looks briefly like he's considering what Kross has to say, but then he just decks Karrion Kross. And then he hops back up on the apron to deliver a phenomenal forearm, but Paul avoids it and then absolutely decks AJ Styles with the titanium punch, and then connects with the pulverizer to pick up the victory on AJ Styles. Sort of completing this miniature tale of maybe AJ should have listened to Karrion, but he's trying to do things the right way.
The commentators are blaming Karrion Kross for his loss. They kept going, Karrion Kross's plan has failed. Like, no, he didn't do Karrion Kross's plan. He did the opposite.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. Like, clearly AJ defied Karrion Kross, yet the announcer, particularly Michael Cole, was like, "Oh, he didn't. Karrion's plan failed." And I'm like, "No, Karrion's plan wasn't executed." You know what I mean?
Yeah, Karrion is over there like catching strays.
Yep. And so I don't know if this sets up a longer program going forward between Karrion Kross and AJ Styles, but the potential is there. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see it. I would like to
I
see
would like to know
Karrion.
what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And for sure, I'd like to see Karrion Kross actually in the ring more. Like, I love his devil on my shoulder, like I'm kind of a vampire looking character. The only thing it's missing is him actually getting in the ring and like
Yeah.
being a menace there, because he tends to show up and job, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like no one cares about a devil on your shoulder that can't get anything done in the ring. So he's
Yeah.
going to have to start showing up and showing out in the ring to present a credible threat.
I agree. Or else he's going to run the risk of what I just talked about with Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, becoming a cartoon villain.
Yeah. And it sounds like this particular group, this particular fan base for WWE really likes a good villain. I'm thinking they're ready to embrace some stuff. They're ready to embrace Dominic Mysterio. They were ready to embrace Rhea Ripley, who, I mean, she is, I guess we can call her a face, but she's generally a heel most of the time. It's just people fucking love her. Um, like they seem to be embracing the dark side, and you know how I feel about the dark side. So Goth, I was born black, so you know, I'm here for
Extra dark.
it. Extra dark, yeah.
Double dark. Um Yeah, I think the heels that do the best, because I think there's plenty of room for anti-heroes. Like I
Yeah,
think it gets real stale when the babyface is so babyface. And I mean, I get that that's a classic wrestling trope, but I do think that the fans pop for a believable anti-hero even more. I think that
yeah,
led to the success of everyone during the Attitude Era. I mean, think
yeah.
about all the top guys: Undertaker, Kane, Mankind, Rock, Stone Cold. None of these guys were squeaky clean baby faces. None of them.
No, 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 no.
So I agree with you, and I think that's why there was a bit of a cheer with Carrion. I also think it's what makes Logan Paul a respectable heel, is that here's a guy who can clearly get it done in the ring, like clearly, like he has
Clearly.
all of what is necessary to succeed in a wrestling ring, but he'll still resort to cheap shot tactics.
Yes.
And it's like it's wildly unnecessary, but we know you can get it done. So I mean, you have to have that credible threat in ring in order to even be relevant. Otherwise, you're just noise. And I don't want to see Karrion Kross, get put in that place, especially since he seems like he's kind of working uphill. I thought they had a good direction with like him and the Final Testament, but then that whole thing just sort of fell apart. Like the feud with the Wyatt Six fell apart, and then like 3 members of the 5-member team get let go. So he's back to square one, trying to build from scratch again. And so hopefully we can see something happen here with
Hopefully.
Karrion Kross. Because I feel like ever since he's been on the main roster, I don't know why, but he's just never quite gotten to that level that I feel like the WWE thinks he can be at.
Clearly,
And
right? And he's got fans. Like, he came here with fans. There were people who were singing the praises of Karrion Kross, which made me go back and look. I think we both did. Look at what he was doing in NXT, which was fucking fire.
yeah, I go back and I look at some of Karrion's matches in NXT, and I mean, like, his whole move set was better. I wasn't real thrilled to see him going back to the cross hammer and like the cross jacket. I much
Yeah.
preferred. I mean, because he's a big guy. Like,
Yeah, listen. If the Undertaker had come out there and hit somebody with God, a fucking. I'm trying to. Give me a hold. Give me a lame hold that I would see DIY doing.
well, I mean, I'm not saying you can't have a decent submission finisher. The Undertaker did have a couple. Like, he test drove a few, but he settled on the Hell's Gate, which is a triangle hold. So he did have a submission hold that he would use from time to time, but I mean,
My
let's
point
face
is,
it.
I'm looking for a lame one. I'm looking for one like
The ankle lock that no one ever taps
there
out
you
to,
go. Okay.
or
So if
even
that was
worse,
the
the STFU.
okay, so there you go, the STFU. So let's say the STFU was the only finishing move that the Undertaker had. Would he be as popular?
No, I mean the
No,
Undertaker
of
had a
course
lot of
not.
he had a lot going for him, right? Like he had an amazing entrance. He's near 7 foot tall. But I mean, when you think of the Undertaker, it's near, at least for me, and I think a lot of people, especially if you see him in advertising today, like Undertaker is still the guy that is selling like the Clash of Clans thing. Like it's we watched that commercial and said just that. We were like, okay, so here's all the modern superstars, but the thing that is the final boss, at least the way the commercial's presented, is still the Undertaker.
Yeah.
So, and what does he do? He hits him with the tombstone pile driver,
Yep.
right? The Undertaker is synonymously thought of with the tombstone during his American Badass run, the last ride. So it's a huge pile driver, a huge power bomb, and of course the choke slam. So, trying to pretend like a finisher doesn't matter is to ignore the people's elbow. It's to ignore the rock bottom. It's to ignore the fucking Stone Cold Stunner. So the moves matter. The move set absolutely matters. You
Absolutely.
can be, you could stay in mediocrity city if you don't have a move set that is interesting for people to pop for and watch. And unfortunately, submission holds and like, oh look, it's a forearm shot to the back of someone's head is not that huge. And before somebody says, well, it works for Will Ospreay, do you see what Will Ospreay accentuates that hidden blade with for the rest of the match? Like the move that people are most terrified happening from Will Ospreay is the goddamn Tiger Driver.
Yeah.
So, it's not his only tool in the tool set. So I can't in more strong terms than I have already given indicate that Karrion Kross, as a guy who looks like he's like 6'4", 6'5", and built like a brick shithouse, needs to have some sort of slam you on your face move. It can't
Yeah.
be some like, oh look, this is a cruiserweight move that they reserve for not
Mm-mm.
wanting to have to lift up a heavy opponent.
Yeah. Absolutely agree.
But I thought he was well on his way in the Final Testament, and I feel like I've seen backsliding from that point. And admittedly, I can't pin that all on Karrion Kross, but the last time he was in the ring in a long time, he still fell back on a stupid cross hammer. So it's like, dude, you didn't even take the opportunity to pop the big move.
Yeah.
So I
And yeah, that would be on him.
so
I,
I really hope that ends up going somewhere because I feel like we have watched Karrion Kross flailing since his main roster debut,
yeah.
and something's got to take off for this guy eventually.
You would think. I hope. Right? Because I mean, honestly, what would be left? Good
Yeah,
luck. Good luck on your future endeavors. Honestly, that's what's left.
yeah, and I think that would be real unfortunate because I see a lot of potential there, and I'm not a fly on the wall, so I don't know if is this limitations from Carrion or limitations in creative. But it's like it's just not coming together. And the one time it looked like it started to, that shit got fried. Like it got the legs kicked out from under it.
Yeah.
I was actually really interested in the feud that the Final Testament had going with the Wyatt Six, and that
Yeah.
that got the legs kicked out from under it. The Wyatt Six then like switched brands and has not been seen or heard from since. We didn't even get a Wyatt Six anything in this WrestleMania, you know.
Yep.
So I don't know what's happening with the Wyatt Six, and as aforementioned, the Final Testament got gutted. So the one thing that he finally was doing on the main roster that started to get some legs under it, they kicked him out from under him. So I
Yep.
don't know what they're trying to do with Karrion Kross. They clearly want to do something with him. He gets TV time, and he's been part of this spot at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So where are we going is, I guess, my question. I mean, what are we doing with this guy?
I honestly wish I knew. But
But
yeah, I got nothing. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's happening.
yeah,
And
I guess we'll have to
I don't
just
know.
see.
I know that I've heard in the past that he's had like an issue with one of his shoulders. That he didn't want to get surgery for, but he didn't speak to why he didn't want to get surgery, and it's none of my business, you know. But all I know is if that's something that's holding you back, then buddy, come on. I mean, come on. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say what to do, but come on.
I'm not in any position but to speculate, and I don't even have good grounds for that. All I know is what I see, and what I've seen is that Karrion has struggled since his call up to the main roster to find a place. Like,
Yeah,
early on, his promos were just like, it wasn't mysterious, it was incoherent. And then we get
yeah,
this final testament thing going, and I'm like, oh, okay, this has a direction. It's understandable, it's straightforward, it works for him in his semi occult kind of approach to things.
yeah,
And I thought we were getting somewhere, especially once you had him tangling with the Wyatt Six. And
yeah,
again, the rest is history. And so we can only hope that they figure out something for Karrion to be doing. And meanwhile, Karrion is trying his best, it seems to me, to like put forth this character. I mean, he's even cutting YouTube promos and shit. And I thought that's inspired. If
yeah,
TV time is too limiting, go to YouTube, sell your character there. I thought that was a real great idea. And so I don't know where the problem lies. Maybe it's multifaceted. Maybe it's just been a series of unfortunate events, but I sure would like to see him do something with Karrion Kross before it's too late or they decide he's, future Endeavorsville.
yeah, yeah. Me too.
Yep. But that match, I know we derailed to Karrion Kross for a big portion there, but just to revisit, an excellent match between Styles and Paul, with Paul being a human highlight reel again, and picking up the win.
Yeah,
Pretty straightforwardly. I mean, I guess you could say there was interference, but I mean, at most it was a distraction. Paul didn't end up clocking him with brass knuckles. He ended up picking up a fairly straightforward victory on AJ Styles here. So Logan Paul looked good, and there's some intrigue with Styles and Karrion Kross going into the future. So well done. A
yep.
good, solid match.
Great showing. Great showing by both competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us to our sixth match of the night, which is Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Lyra Valkyria, and it was supposed to be Bayley, but we're informed at the top of WrestleMania that Bayley has suffered an injury. And so at this juncture, at this point, it's Lyra Valkyria and a mystery tag partner for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. And so I guess they broke the tradition because I believe Liv and Raquel came out first because presumably I guess we don't know who Lyra Valkyria's partner is, so they let
Right.
them come second. And Lyra makes her big entrance, and it was huge. She's got like full on, Valkyrie wings, and more of the people are starting to woo for her during her entrance.
Yep.
So
Yep.
looking good. And then we get the mystery entrance, and we're sitting there going, "Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be?"
You asked me like 2 minutes before we knew who was coming out, who it might be, and I said, I don't know, jokingly. Let me point out, I was joking when I said it. Was not serious. So I don't want anybody to think, "Oh man, you're psychic." Nah, I was just going, I don't know, Becky Lynch. Ha ha ha. And then
And then
Becky Lynch's music cuts, and
the
it was at
crowd
that moment.
explodes.
Yep. And that was at that moment we were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, we totally know the outcome of this now."
Yeah, and credit to the WWE for keeping this one a secret, because like the media was reporting that Becky Lynch might be like retiring from in-ring action,
Yeah.
and that she's perfectly happy doing her little side projects. No predicted future for when Becky Lynch might return. So this was legitimately surprising, at least for us. I don't know, maybe someone else out there was like, I knew all along. I always knew. Well, then good for you. But we were genuinely surprised, and that completely changed our trajectory. I think our prediction was that Lyra Valkyria and Bailey weren't going to win because they're kind of a throw together tag team. And I think I went off on a tangent suggesting that maybe Lyra and Bailey don't win and Bailey turns on Lyra because she's frustrated because now she's not won the Intercontinental belts and now maybe Lyra's the one that got pinned and so she views Lyra as keeping her from the gold. And none of that happened. None of that happened because Bailey was not in the match. So our
Yeah.
predictions obviously were not going to be correct. Um, but the minute we saw Becky Lynch was there, like she hadn't even stepped 2 steps onto the entrance ramp, we were like, "Oh, they're winning."
Yep.
And spoiler, they do. Um, Throughout the entirety of this match, Liv Morgan, like the second she sees Becky Lynch is there, starts like looking very afraid.
Yeah, she's
Um,
on she's on I want no smoke alert.
Yeah, and she should want no smoke because I believe Becky Lynch's last match since she has been gone was against Liv Morgan for the title belt, and Liv wanted to offer. And so Liv knew Becky was coming for that receipt, and she didn't want to be here for it. Like, so much so that there was a point in this match where it looked like Raquel Rodriguez might get the win. And before like they had arrived at the 2 count, Liv was out picking up their belts because she wanted to get the hell out of Dodge the second the match was over. Like she wanted zero Becky Lynch
She
time.
was grabbing their things.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, we didn't. It's not over." Ah. And so
Oh
Liv
my
is doing a
goodness.
great job selling like her terror of anything having to do with Becky Lynch.
Yes.
Um, and this is pretty good. Like this was a pretty decent match between these women. Um, as we sort of head to how we got to the finish, um, for the most part, for a good portion of this match, Raquel and Liv isolate Lyra Valkyria in their corner, like with frequent tags and just not letting her get there. So there's a very long portion of the match where it's just Lyra getting her ass handed to her in the corner. And ultimately, she finally is able to get to her corner and finally tag in Becky. And from that point forward, Becky is sort of like, just kind of handing them their ass. Um, as we head towards the end of the match, we have Becky and Morgan. And Becky drills Morgan with like a big butterfly suplex and attempts to go for the cross arm breaker. And Morgan counters by rolling her into a pinning situation. Becky, lets go after 2, and then applies the disarmor. But then Raquel kicks Becky to break up the submission hold and goes, over and knocks Valkyria off the apron. But then Becky's able to send Rodriguez tumbling to the floor. Uh, but that leaves Becky in the position up against the ropes to turn around and get oblivioned by Liv. And we're like, oh, uh-oh. But fortunately, Lyra Valkyria is able to jump in and break up that pinning situation. And it she then throws Liv to the ropes and I think delivers a kick to Liv, and Liv counters by switching around and attempting the Oblivion. Um, and I want to say there was an attempt at a suicide dive out on the floor where Valkyria turns that suicide dive into a tornado DDT. Oh, I remember now. Yeah, when she dodged out of the Oblivion, she ran and delivered a suicide dive to Raquel, who was outside on the floor. And Raquel catches her and holds her way up high, and it looks like, this isn't going to go well for Valkyria, but she reverses it into a tornado DDT. And then Morgan responds with a wrecking ball drop kick, and then turns around and gets back into the ring, where Becky Lynch then immediately hits her with a huge manhandle slam, and they pick up the victory. And so just that quick, Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch are the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions.
Just showed up, won a belt. That's Becky Lynch.
Yeah, welcome back. I didn't hear...
You're about to say it, I believe. You're about to say exactly the same thing I thought, which is...
I didn't hear a cascade of boos in the same fashion that was like... Because according to what we're hearing, and the reason for the booing of, say, Charlotte Flair, is that they're tired of her showing up and just getting wins.
Yeah.
But I didn't catch any of that. Like, Becky Lynch just shows up out of nowhere and wins the tag belts. So I'm wondering why the difference. I mean, I'm not saying you should boo either of them for that reason. These are some established competitors. I don't think anyone would boo if Randy Orton showed up and was immediately put in, a good title position, because he's just that guy, and these are just those women. These are members of the original Four Horsewomen. So I'm not sure what the difference is. Maybe people just don't like Charlotte. I don't know.
And I don't think that people actually thought this through this quickly. Because you wouldn't have that much time if you didn't know she was coming out to the time that she comes out, Becky Lynch. But I'm gonna give people the benefit of a doubt, and I'm gonna say that this is probably their line of thinking. Okay. Becky Lynch. Well, first of all, Charlotte Flair came in and being with a huge advantage in the match. First of all, like her number. She comes in and they probably feel like she squashed newer talent for a position that they maybe feel some other female wrestler could have had. Whereas Becky came in and she didn't take anything away from any other new talent. She just joined up where a seasoned competitor was already in that spot, but then had to drop out. So I'm thinking that maybe they feel like she came in, won a belt, but she didn't do so at the detriment of any younger talent's career or a younger talent's spot.
Mayhaps. I tend to think I agree with you. That it all happened a little too quick for the crowd to sit there and go, well, now, hey,
right,
she
exactly.
she just did the very thing that we were upset about Charlotte doing. And I'm like, I have to think it must run deeper than that, because otherwise there's this weird double standard. I think it might just be that the crowd likes Becky more, and that's fine. I mean, you're allowed to like who you like.
Yeah, I think ultimately that's it. Yeah, that's it.
And to her credit, I didn't see any ring rust on Becky. She looked great. She definitely hasn't been skipping gym day. She actually looked like she put a little bit more mass on her, because there at the end of her last run before she took that break, she was looking pretty thin. And I mean, I'm not trying to body shame or anything when I'm mentioning these people's physiques, any more so than I would note that Randy Orton came back looking, like he packed on 40 pounds of extra muscle, or that AJ Styles took a little break and came back more jacked than he's ever been. I'm just noting how they're looking. And there was a point near the end of her run that Becky was looking dangerously thin. And she was looking much better here. Maybe the break did her some good. There definitely seems to be a pattern of these wrestlers having to take a break from full-time action in order to actually take care of themselves, and they come back looking even better.
Yeah, that's true. I was very happy to see her, though. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And that
ecstatic to
match,
see her.
because I wasn't very excited about that match, honestly. But seeing that Becky Lynch showed up, my my excitement uh my excitement grew. Yeah. So
Yeah,
and it ended up being a pretty good match.
it definitely added a spark to it and gave it more interest than it had prior. I think it was just going to be like a match, and this made it like an event, like a moment. The big return of Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, and she, helps Lyra Valkyria to Irish Lasses win against the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
I would also like to say, because I didn't say it earlier because I didn't want to necessarily spoil the outcome of this match, but this basically leaves Dominic Mysterio as the only member of Judgment Day with any gold. And
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see how that plays out because, Finn's been talking about how Dom can't get it done, and now Dom is the only champion in the Judgment Day. Let's see how this goes. I'm curious to see the smack that gets talked, or the tails tucked between legs and the crow eaten.
Yeah, I think that, well, first of all, it could go one of two ways, right? Dominic might just give Finn Balor a really hard time, or he might just be insufferable to everyone. We shall see.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that one plays out because
Yeah, for
Finn
sure.
has just been like ornery to Dominic, and they've been treating him and Carlito like they're the losers of the Judgment Day, and now he's the only one with any gold.
Yeah,
Finn has no gold. As he likes to remind us, the first undisputed WWE champion. And Liv has now lost not only the women's world title, but they've lost the women's tag team titles as well. And so I'm real interested to see what they do
yeah,
with that. I mean, if he doesn't rub it in a little bit, I'm going to be so disappointed. Like, he should be smug as a bug, and I hope he is.
yeah. When you listen to Mysterio, you remain a hero. Listen to Dominic. That does the trick.
Listen to Dom, he's the bomb.
Just trying to help him come up with slogans
Yeah.
since when you listen to Finn, everybody wins. Didn't really work out.
No, listening to Finn didn't work out at all.
Yeah.
So
Listen
yeah,
to Finn and nobody wins.
I am really hoping to see Dominic Mysterio force feed all that shit back in their
Oh,
faces, and I
please,
I think the
please.
crowd is too, and I think that would just help him go over even more. But yeah, I'm here for it. Like, definitely that did a lot to make me interested to see what the dynamic of the Judgment Day is going to be with
Yeah.
only Dominic Mysterio having championship gold. But all that said, congratulations to the new women's tag champions. That brings us to the seventh and final main event match of the night. Cody Rhodes versus John Cena for the undisputed WWE Championship and the absolute future of the business going forward. No pressure.
No pressure. I'm gonna do something that I don't think I've done on this podcast yet. I'm gonna ask you, how did you feel about this before you run down the deets? How did you feel about this match?
Hmm. One, I didn't love the build up. Um, it got better over time, but as you pointed out quite well, when I was mentioning how some people are complaining that the build up to WrestleMania was ass, and I was like, I can think of a few spots, but on the whole, I didn't think that was true. But you also pointed out, like, the absolute trash promos of The Rock leading up to the whole thing with Elimination Chamber,
Yeah.
where he wanted Cody Rhodes' soul, and the
Yeah.
confused, half-drunk, rambling promos.
Oh God.
And then immediately we had the events of the chamber, which was good. That was great. Like the Rock showing up and the exchange between him and Cody, and then the heel turn for Cena. Excellent. Right? No complaints there. And we're like, oh, cool. So this thing might be turning around. They might be able to salvage it because the Rock was bombing it. But then we get the next two John Cena, kind of why I did it promos that are freaking god awful. Like the whole "I'm the victim, you've been mean to me, even though I've made millions and sold tons of merch, and you've never done anything for me except buy you like all your houses and cars and shit, dude." That just wasn't landing well. And those promos were just like Debbie Downers that made us want to turn off the shows that they were on. They were so bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, not the right kind of heat, right? Like, it's not heel heat, like, oh, John Cena heel. We want to see him really get his comeuppance from Cody Rhodes. We just wanted to see him to fuck off. It's like, hey, weren't you retiring this year? And then they started to pick it back up. Pretty much in the first promo that Rhodes basically hit him with the crossroads, it kind of picked up.
Yeah.
And so the buildup was not good. It started to improve in some spots, but overall, it was not a great build up to this particular match. And then you have the match, and you've got John Cena playing like he reluctantly is there.
Yeah.
And that really kind of sucked the wind out of the match. And then you had a really super, for the most part of this match, it was a super paint by numbers. Like, I could see John Cena and Cody Rhodes having the majority of this match as a practice match in the training center.
Yeah.
It really felt very paint by numbers. And so I think maybe I realized that the meta is that Cena can't wrestle, and the meta idea is that, he's reluctant to be there. But I think he did too good of a job conveying those points in this match, because it was kind of, until the last moments, it was a real freaking snoozer.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it had to do with John Cena having such a listless, like, attitude. And I know that's the character, but I don't think it worked here. I think in an attempt to play a character who doesn't really want to be there, you actually convinced me that you didn't really want to be there. Like, it came through too well, almost. Like it made for a kind of boring ass match.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of get to the events at the end, which is where it became more interesting. But this was probably a super weak main event. Now, as far as our predictions, I called it. I said Cena's going to win.
Yeah.
So, spoiler, at this point, like mid-afternoon, the day after, if it's a spoiler for anyone, I'm amazed. Cena won the belt. And it's almost because there's nowhere else to go with it if he doesn't. Like,
True.
At least this way, if he has the belt, and I believe I said this in the predictions show, which is why I was making this prediction, Cena at least becomes more interesting for the remainder of his run in 2025 as the champ, as everyone attempts to get that belt off him before he takes it and goes home for good.
Yeah.
So that allows you to set up these big marquee matches with John Cena that make sense because he is the defending champion. So now he's got the thing that you want. It's not just let's stick Cena in marquee matches because it's Cena's final year. It's Cena is the defending champion. Depending on what happens next. I mean, I'm real curious. Monday Night Raw coming. Since we didn't see The Rock on SmackDown, we didn't see The Rock at all in WrestleMania. He didn't show up even for this match. All we got was Travis Scott. We still are waiting to see what The Rock's role in this is, and the last kind of opportunity to do something with it, at least in the near future, is Raw. Now, according to the internets, he is supposed to appear tonight, but we shall see. Now, depending on how that goes can depend on like what we see next, because either The Rock shows up and he says, Cena is my champion. If you want some, come get some, or some such thing. Or possibly the worst potential outcome that I can foresee is that Cena does something like surrender the title to The Rock. Like, they don't even have a match. He just gives him the belt.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see where it goes, because as it stands, at least I think it's interesting with Cena as the champion and Cody on the chase is a much more interesting storyline than either of the alternatives of, like, if Cody had won at WrestleMania or if he just hands the belt over to The Rock. But that was my feelings on the match. It was a relatively lackluster match. It had kind of an interesting ending, but it really was missing something with the absence of The Rock in this scenario. I mean, I know that's a weird thing to say because we've complained about how The Rock has inserted himself into this. But, like, once he was there, he was part of the story. Like, theoretically, all of what Cena was doing was at the behest of The Rock. And then all we get is The Rock's newest, like, rapper minion. Yeah, it was a really weak... I think the main event of night one was far and away the superior main event.
I agree. Absolutely.
So those are my feelings, without recapping the very, the details.
For me, John Cena seemed to have decided to channel Hulk Hogan in his NWO run, and I fucking hated it. Also, Travis Scott, I feel like he offered really nothing. And he looked pretty goofy. And also, there are a couple of matches this WrestleMania that were just telegraphed way too much. The outcome was telegraphed way too much. Oh my god, they telegraphed the outcome of this match so much in the weeks before WrestleMania, and then finally, right before the match even took place, while John Cena was in the ring, the commentators would not shut up about how he was not going to win. They would not shut up about how he has to be the one to prove, because right now he's looking real bad. He hasn't won a match in this amount of time. Like, I mean, they wouldn't let it the fuck go. Finally, somebody asked Pat McAfee what he thought, and he was like, "Oh yeah, he could win." Finally.
Yeah.
But,
there was some harsh telegraphing at the beginning with the
oh
announcers.
my
Like,
lord.
they were practically screaming that John Cena is going to take this match, because they were like, "Oh, he can't win. He hasn't won any of his singles. There's no chance. He's got no chance in hell." So it's like, "Oh, okay. So he totally has. He's winning."
Listen, the opener of WrestleMania, night one, telegraphed that John Cena was going to win. It honestly did. If you go back and you watch it, listen to the speech, or listen to the oratory that Triple H made at the beginning, the little vignette that they had there. He makes mention of how things are going to be changing, and he even telegraphed what John Cena had said to Cody Rhodes the night before, or the last time they had gotten in the ring with each other and had their little face to face. John Cena told him that he was going to lose because he didn't have what it takes. He's going to pick what the fans want over what is right, quote unquote, right. In which case, I'm thinking the lesson is you can't be a good champion unless you cheat. Like, what? Like, I'd love to see how they're gonna tell or finish the story here in this particular way, because buddy, this match, this match.
Yeah, there's obviously a through line of being willing to sell your soul to succeed. And I'm
now,
not sure a couple of things. I'm not sure who it's for. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that they've
Yes.
executed it well.
Yeah.
I will say this. I've got a couple of thoughts. One, I don't think that this story has been told that well or that cleanly. Like I said, the build up to this was trash, and this match wasn't a particularly good match. This was a paint by numbers. It also suffered from the sin of like everybody's going to hit their finisher on one another like a bazillion times, and they're not going to work until it works.
Yeah.
Like this, I felt. One, John Cena's finisher, which is basically just a fireman's carry into a slam, was a hard sell to begin with. So burying it further, I don't think did him any favors. Like it seems like he hit every variation of a goddamn AA that he could, and Cody Rhodes just could kick out of it every time. And similarly, John Cena kicked out of like a lot of crossroads. I get an intense match allowing like a kick out or maybe two really in a big top spot, but it buries finishers that they don't finish people.
Yeah, if they keep trying to do finishers and that doesn't finish people off, then yeah, that's gonna be a bad look. Like, uh, only in extreme cases, and I'm choosing my words carefully because I'm thinking I want to make sure that that's correct. But I don't think that Will Ospreay has done uh any of his finishers multiple times to one competitor like over and over again, and not gotten a victory. He might try different because I mean he's got several, right? He might try like if he's got three, he might try all three, and that'll get it. But it's never, I got this one move, and I'm gonna keep doing this 6 times,
Yeah.
until my opponent is dead from boredom.
Yeah, and
You
it,
know?
it starts to become one note too, because then you start seeing the finisher like several times in a match to where it's like now it's just the whole move set that you're using. And we end up with this escalation where, oh, you're not only going to have to hit him with the crossroads, you're going to have to hit him with like 3 crossroads, run into him with a truck, drop a building on him, and then also finally hit one more crossroads, and then you can pin him. It's just
Yeah.
it's just a burial of finishers. And I think they're leaning a little too heavily into that, a bit too much, like without any sort of interceding reasons why. Like there wasn't like he didn't roll out of the ring, so you weren't able to get the pin as quickly, so he managed to recover. So you got
Yeah.
to do it again. It's just he just kicks out because your finisher sucks. You know, and I felt like that was the case much more so in this situation. I'll contrast that against like the night before's main event where like we had a stomp, into or no a go to sleep into a spear into a stomp. Well, that leaves all 3 men incapacitated, so no one can go for a cover. It's not that the moves all suck now and they can just kick out of them because and I think that's a distinction that they really need to make, because it really like this and like that last cage match with Seth and CM Punk where it was just like a long string of go to sleep stomp and nobody got pinned. You're killing your finishers. Like, and
Yeah.
there's always this escalation. Like, oh, the regular stomp didn't work. Well, I guess I have to do the middle rope stomp. Oh, the middle rope stomp didn't work. Well, I guess I got to do the top rope stomp. Oh, that didn't work. Well, I guess I'm going to have to descend 30 feet on cables and stomp it. At a certain point, it's just like, well, a stomp ain't going to work. You're going to have
Yeah.
to just kill him.
Maybe try a new finisher. Maybe try something new. Just throwing that out there.
And I mean, Cena's performance in this match, I think the best analogy I can think of, and I know that this was the character trait he was trying to evoke. I just don't think it did any favors to the match.
Yeah.
Is like if you're going to a rock concert and you're seeing the rock singer and he's acting like he has to double himself over and turn himself inside out in order to hit that crazy rock scream note. then you're on board. You're like, wow, that note went hard, and look, he had to practically turn himself into a pretzel of intensity to do it. Versus seeing that same rock star hit the exact same note in a practice session where he stood stock still singing it the whole time and barely had to open his mouth to hit the note because he can do this all day. That's how I felt Cena's performance was. Everything was listless and like he didn't put any energy into it. So none of the moves had that kind of like intensity and the whole match was dragged down for it.
Yeah.
And then you get the STFU, which is so terrible because in an STF, theoretically, you've got somebody in a face lock and you're locking their leg in place while you pull their head backwards. But John Cena, the way he does it is he pushes his arms out stock straight, like he's got his elbows locked. So he's not pulling on his opponent's face. He has his arms straight dead out in front of him. There was points where there was so much space between his arms and Cody Rhodes' face that there's no reason Cody Rhodes couldn't have just gotten out of it.
Yep. Oh my
So
god. Yeah.
I mean, this was just not a good match. And so those were some of the things I wanted to point out specifically that I think were nuking it for me.
Yeah. Boy. It's unfortunate because the rest of WrestleMania was pretty good, man.
Yeah.
But like this would be the main event, right? Like this is like the ultimate, and boy, oh goodness.
Yeah. I know each night has its own main events, but the show closing main event on Sunday is like supposedly the main event. So
Yeah.
for that to be kind of the weakest match on the card is not great.
Yeah.
That said, I don't really feel like it's worth it to recount much. There was a ton of crossroads. There was a ton of AAs. You pretty much get the idea of what most of this match ended up looking like. Before that, it was extraordinarily boring as John Cena, tried to do the least, including like, coming off the middle ropes 3 times back to back with like double axe handles, the most lazy double axe handles in the world.
So boring. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it just wasn't there. But as we get to the sort of closing moments of this match, there's a point where, of course, the ref gets crunched in a corner and has to roll out of the ring because he's been destroyed forever. It's at this moment in time that we end up with Travis Scott kind of coming out, and I think Cena goes and grabs the title to try and do a cheap move. And so, it's also, of course, the moment where the second Chad Patton, the referee, goes down is when Cody reverses something Cena was trying to do into a crossroads and gets like a 10 count from the audience. He's like, oh, he had Cena beat if only the ref wasn't dead. And so at that point, Rhodes is trying to wake up the referee, and this allows Cena to remove the top turnbuckle pad. And Rhodes comes back into the ring and tries, he hits Cena with some punches, and Cena then drives Cody face first into the exposed steel twice. And then he hits an attitude adjustment, and Travis Scott makes his way down to the ring. And this is looking good. Cena's all for it. He helps Travis Scott up onto the ring apron, and they're in cahoots. And everybody's like, oh, it's just Travis Scott. I think I even said, oh, the final boss is going to show up. Nah, nope, just Travis Scott, y'all.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm the wrong guy for this dude. Maybe this is like somebody that, like, I don't know, 12-year-olds are popping hard for. I don't know who Travis Scott really is. Apparently, he's a massive celebrity. So whoever he's a massive celebrity with, it ain't me. So this I'm not the demographic for this guy. And so all I see is a thin rapper dude stepping into a wrestling ring. Like, you want to talk about Logan Paul? People are like, he has no place here. Why are we even bothering with him? Logan Paul is aces in the ring. He is every bit of a fucking pro wrestler. Whereas
Yep.
Travis Scott is just a skinny dude who wants to get in a ring. And he looks like a goofball for doing it, in my opinion. But I don't know, maybe if you're a diehard Travis Scott fan, you were popping like mad. I don't know who it was for. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, it's not
But
not my cup of tea. I don't get it.
yeah, I don't. Maybe I've reached that point where I'm that guy sitting out on his lawn telling people to get off it. But
Yeah.
Travis Scott did zero for me. And I want to say after that, Cena goes and gets Rhodes, but Rhodes fights back with a back elbow and ends up hitting a crossroads. And the ref has at this point recovered somewhat, but that's when Travis Scott just straight pulls the ref out of the ring. And let me tell you, a ref getting accidentally bumped and missing a count is one thing, but the ref was deliberately pulled out of the ring. And for some reason, like him flopping onto the floor, he's dead again. Apparently, refs are made out of tissue paper, but whatever. That's a common enough trope. It's fine.
Yeah.
But the minute he woke up, wouldn't his stupid ass wonder who the fuck pulled him out of the ring? Like, it's not like he didn't know he got yanked out of a fucking ring.
Yeah.
And wouldn't he get up and immediately disqualify the match? Like, I'm sorry, the first one was an accidental thing. The second one was very deliberate. So, whatever. Hand wave. So he gets pulled out of the ring. And this pisses off Cody, who, immediately is like, bring it. I got receipts for you, you skinny little bastard who popped my eardrum. And so Travis Scott then, for some stupid reason, gets in the ring. Like, why? But he does, and he attempts to slap Cody Rhodes, who blocks it easily, and then proceeds to crossroads Travis Scott. And so Travis Scott is now dead forever. So that much was satisfying, because it's like, this dude, if there was a dude who didn't look like he had a place getting into a damn ring, it's this dude. And so I think everybody popped for Travis Scott just getting his head lopped off with a crossroads. And then I want to say Rhodes takes the time to kick Travis Scott out of the ring, and Travis Scott is sandbagging the shit out of this, so it takes Cody like a week longer than it should have, because Scott obviously doesn't belong in a damn ring. And it's at this point that Cena has gone and grabbed the WWE Championship, and he attempts to blindside Cody Rhodes, but Cody Rhodes catches the championship, and then they sort of have a tug-of-war that Cody Rhodes wins. And, Cena, once the championship is in Cody's hands and not in his, starts begging like a little bitch, like, no, don't do it. And the announcers are like, this is the moment, thank you for not allowing us any bit of interpretive freedom. We must be told that this is the moral quandary moment. This is when Cody Rhodes must decide, does he do what's right or does he win? And I mean, a little bit heavy-handed, guys, just a hair.
Just a scooch.
So, of course, Cody Rhodes decides he doesn't want to win that way. And the minute he takes his, he sort of averts his gaze from wanting to smack Cena with that, Cena kicks him in the nuts. And then Cena clocks him with the WWE Championship. And he realizes that there's not a ref in there, so he goes over and he's like, come on, and he kicks the championship out of the ring and goes for the pin. And this is how Cena picks up the championship win.
Yep.
And John Cena and Travis Scott are celebrating to close the show. Hooray.
Yay.
What a main event.
What a main event.
So, night 2, I think, probably wasn't my favorite night. There was some good stuff in there, but the main event was not great. And the highs of night 1 while there was a low, Charlotte Flair and Tiffany was not good. It was not a good match, in my opinion. The highs, the win by Jay, the excellent match, the main event, the three-way dance with Seth Rollins and CM Punk and Roman Reigns. There was just more on that night that I think I was much more invested in. There were some amazing surprises in night two. Like it was a surprise getting Becky Lynch, and even though it was one of the two choices that I kind of nailed down, whether it was Sheamus or Joe Hendry, it was still a pleasant surprise that it was Joe Hendry.
Yeah.
We ended on kind of a drag, and not just because the heel won, right? Like that's not the reason it was a drag. The match itself was ass, and The Rock didn't even show up for this moment. Yeah. I don't want to taint what was otherwise a solid evening, because all the other matches on the card were quite good with a main event, but that's what I feel like night two gave us, was a main event.
Yeah, you aren't wrong.
That's the last taste in your mouth that you have coming off of WrestleMania.
You aren't wrong.
So while I gave a 9 point, I said a 9.0 to 9.5 for night one, I think night two, just because the main event watered it down so much, it's gonna drop to like somewhere between maybe an 8.5 to 9, because I don't want to overly punish all the rest that was good, but
yeah,
man, your close is what I come away feeling something about. And this was the big match that you were putting all the pennies on. Like, this is your main event to a 2-night event. This is the main event. And it was, I would say this might be weaker than Charlotte Tiffany for me. And I didn't like that match at all. So I don't know. It's still going to be top tier. I just don't think night two for me was better than night one. And that's kind of my review of night two of WrestleMania. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think instead of giving this one a 9.5, I'd have to give it a 9 point, just a 9. And that's because I gotta take off more points, because this was the main event. Like, this is what everybody, like, this was your reason for WrestleMania, and it just fell short. And I have to say that it did so mainly due to John Cena. It wasn't that great, man. It just wasn't great. I would love to hear what the story is, what the reasoning is, what the logic is, where we're going with this. But it was a very unimpressive finish to an otherwise fantastic 2-night event.
I completely agree.
Even with Charlotte Flair and Tiffy having their really, really bad match, that was not enough to take the shine off of this year's WrestleMania. WrestleMania, in my opinion. Yeah, there's a joke somewhere for WrestleMania.
I'm sure Simon Belmont's the returning champion.
Yes, there it is. So but I'd give it a 9, because everything else was just so good. And had this been a decent match, or had it been another match that was kind of meh and not the main event, I probably would have given this one a 9.5. Last night I was well on my way to giving this a 10. Because it just thinking of it overall, I didn't think that there was any particular match that was the weak point. But upon further reflection, shortly after I even made that comment, I thought about the main event and just how underwhelming it was. And it was really the audience, it was the fans that gave this match the hype. And they were, for some reason, rooting for John Cena and booing Cody Rhodes. But whatever the case, I'm here to see what they do with this. Excuse me. I'm here to see what they do.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to illustrate is that the weak match of night one was a mid card match. Like it happened in the middle of the card. That's not a value judgment. That's literally what a mid card match is.
Yeah.
And so we started with fire and we ended with fire, and the weakest point was the middle, which is where it's supposed to be. This was the main event, not just of night two, but to cap off all of WrestleMania, and it was the weakest match.
Yeah.
That really hurts. I mean, it really does. Like the whole rest of the card ends up suffering a tad when the last taste that the fan has in their mouth coming away from the show was like, that was mid or even bad.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because there were some great matches on the card. So it didn't do any favors for WrestleMania writ large or for just the card of the night it was on. Really, I feel disappointed in what we could have had in terms of a dream match between Cody Rhodes and John Cena, and this is what we got.
Yeah.
I feel disappointed in what you could have had. Like if you had said to me, "All right, envision an angle where we have The Rock, John Cena, and Cody Rhodes." This is what we got was the furthest from what I think me or any other fan who knows what those three are capable of would have predicted. This fell far shorter of expectations than that should have. I mean, you've got two guys in Cena and The Rock who are some of the hottest or known to be hottest on the mic and solid in-ring performers. I mean, I know people say John Cena can't wrestle, but I mean, at least when he puts some energy into it, you can get hype for what's happening. This is potentially the biggest letdown of what just mentioning those three in an angle could come up with.
Yeah.
So really unfortunate. I don't want to harp on that too much because again, WrestleMania writ large was a banger. It was top tier. Just this main event was kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
Well, having said all that, that concludes our coverage of WrestleMania and WrestleMania Night 2 in specific. And I want to thank everybody who has listened for this episode. And I invite you to join us for our next episode, which will probably be our episode covering the events of Monday Night Raw. And until then, I don't think there's much for me to do but roll the outro.
Hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.